So good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon.
Today's topic is encapsulation. And you guys, as you know, in object programming, there are some important concepts that you needed to understand, and encapsulation is one of them. Apart from encapsulation, we also discussed abstraction. It's another concept that any object-oriented programming language will have. Also, we'll be covering today the concept of inheritance. Don't worry, my handwriting is not good, but the point is inheritance. And later on, we discuss also polymorphism. So those are four important concepts of any object-oriented programming: abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. So if you tell anybody that you attended object-oriented programming course, they will expect you to have a clear understanding of those concepts. So in this topic today, I'm going to introduce to you what is encapsulation. You'll understand the meaning of encapsulation and the benefits of encapsulation, and practically how you can achieve encapsulation in Java. So this is the main objective of this topic. So as I said, one of the four fundamental object-oriented programming concepts is encapsulation. So it's one of those concepts. The other three concepts includes inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. All right. So what is encapsulation? Encapsulation means, in a simple words, information hiding. So what does it mean? You are trying to hide some information by wrapping the data or variables and the code acting on the same data or method or whatever together as a single unit or as one class. So I'm trying to say that the concept of encapsulation, you have your class, you have your variables, you have your methods. You want to make sure that no one can access any of your data, being variable or being method, from outside, from another class. So you hide this information within your class, and only what people can see, they can see everything as a single unit or everything as a class. So with this concept, variables of your class will be hidden from other classes. So I don't know if you understand what we mean. Variables of your class are hidden from other classes, and if the other classes wants to access those variables, they can do it only through the use of methods, the methods of their current class. And of course, as I will say, this is what we call data hiding. People will say data hiding, and others will say information hiding. Okay, so you know from a database that data and information, they are different, but some authors of the books will use those terms interchangeably. So they want to mean something, they can use data or they can use information. So data hiding, a class which is also known as abstraction, by the way. A class that can have a total control over what is stored in its field, and this one will make a class simpler to use, as the users of class do not need to know how the class stores its data. A class can change the field, and the users of the class do not need to change any of their code. So to be able to achieve encapsulation, this is very important. The fields of a class will be made read only or write only, or you can do both. You can make the fields of the class read only or just write only. So in Java, we achieve encapsulation by using a private access modifier. So you remember, we have a public, we have a protected, we have a default. Also, you have a private access modifier. So when you want to achieve encapsulation in Java, you make sure that your classes your variables of your classes, the variables of your class are declared as private. And when you make them private, you should be aware that no other class can access those variables from outside. So to make sure that those variables can be used outside your class, you have to define public setters and the getters. Those are the methods you implement to assign a value to your class. In that case, you go with set. That's why you call it setter or mutator. And to get the value from your class, we use a method called get. That's why here we say getter or accessor. So those are the methods that you can use, and you make them public. And with those methods, you can make sure that your public variables can be used by another class outside your class. So they provide a way to modify and view the values stored in those variables. Let's look at this simple example. We have a class called a student, and good enough, we have one variable which is a name. Type is a string, and the access modifier is a private. So what does it mean? If I have another class like another class, I don't know, you can give it any name. If I have another class like a session 01, this class cannot access this variable because this variable is private. Okay? So to be able to do this, to be able to change the value of this name or to read the value of the name, I've got a public set method, set name, and have another public get name. So the return value for get name here is a string. So which means with this method, get name, it will return a string, which is the name. And for set name method, the return type is void, which means there is no return type. And simply what it does is to modify the value which is stored here. So you pass a parameter and you make sure that this parameter is given to this variable. So we use this to refer, because they have the same name. This keyword, because this variable belongs to this class, and it has the same name as the parameter you pass here. So we will see this keyword most often, even in the next topic of inheritance. So this is a theory, but I want to tell you how you do this in practice. So if you remember what I told you, my instruction to you was to go and install Eclipse or NetBeans, yeah, whatever you installed. So we've been writing our programs in a notepad, which was not easy, and to run our program, we're just using those commands. But now I think from Sunday, I told you that you can install IDE. You can see the keyword IDE. Yes, IDE. You can see that.
Yes, you can see it.
Yeah. So IDE means yeah, integrated development environment. So when you work on a big application, you can't keep running those commands to execute your program. You can install any IDE, integrated development environment, can be Eclipse, can be NetBeans, can be, there are so many types of IDEs, but Eclipse and NetBeans, they are commonly used for Java developers. If you develop for Android, for example, you have Android Studio. That is also IDE. If you develop for .NET, you have a Visual Studio. That is also IDE. So there are so many IDEs, but for Java, NetBeans, and Eclipse, those are the commonly used ones. So you can download it from Oracle. It's free. You install it, and then you can start making some programs using IDE. So I will show you how your life becomes much easier with IDE. You can't just write a class. You need to have a project. So let me know if you can see here. I can create a project here, Java project. I can call it a name. This is Wednesday, 3rd. So it's a Java project. I just do finish. So this is my project, and all my source code will be written here. My classes, my packages, every stuff will be written here. So I can create a class by right click. You can say class here. You can create a class. Interface, we'll see interface later on. Packages, we'll see packages later on. Enumerations, you can see. So we are looking at the Java class here. And this class is it says session 09. By the way, I can call it any name. Like this is a person, for example. This is a person class, or let's make it a session. I will tell you what I mean. I will do so many examples for you to understand. Session 9 is 0.1. And if I want to include the public static void main, you can see here, I can pick this one here. So I will get a public static void main. All right. So this is in my class. If you need to know how to use IDE, I can simply put a simple statement. So this is the simple IDE, and this is the only line of code I can write for my program. So to run my program, I don't need to run those commands. I can do right click here and pick run as, then I go here. I can run in my program. I will see the output here. You see? This is IDE. But now we are talking about encapsulation. So let's go to encapsulation. I want to have another class here. And the beauty here, as you can see, I can have an option to add so many other things here. And unfortunately, there is no option to add a class. I need to write the code for this. So let me make another class. This is a class person. And this person, I can have a private string, first name, private string, last name. So guess what? As I said, when we make those classes private, you remember what we said? So those the members of this class, the data you have here, first name, last name, they cannot be accessed here. Okay? They cannot be accessed here. So you can verify this one. You can create instance of class of the person class, a new person. If you do P, you can't see first name, you can't see last name. So what does it mean? First name and the last name, they are not visible from this class here. So they are only visible within this class here. So I think you understand what I mean. So these two variables, they are only accessible within this class. So this is where the concept of encapsulation comes in. Okay? So you are hiding this data from other classes. So, but remember what you said. How do you make, sorry, I needed to undo. How do you make sure that these variables can be accessed? So we said that you needed to implement the public getters and the setters. So you will go ahead and say public, for example, public string get first name. And this one is going to return f name. So if anyone wants to get the value, which is stored here, they can call only this method. You understand? So if someone wants to modify the value stored in the first name, they will go ahead and define the setter method. Something like public void set the first name. So we pass the value we wanted to give. And here we'll say, yes, you can do this first name equal to this name. So this is how you can modify the value stored in this variable. This is how you can read the value which is stored in this variable. So if you want, you don't need to write this stuff. You can quickly auto-generate this. If you look at any IDE you will use, you will have the option to generate something like a generate setter and the getters. So eventually when I use this option, I don't need to write this code. Automatically this code will be written, okay? So it's good for you to write the code at the beginning, but when you get used, you don't need to write. You can come here and go to source, just generate getter and setters. You choose on which variables. They will be public, and you can see. So the first two, it's for accessing and modifying the value of a first name, and the last two is for accessing and modifying the value in a last name. So the same, if you need to have some constructors, because you remember when you don't create a constructor, there is a default constructor. That's why we can do this. It's because there is a constructor which has this signature. Let me generate it. You can see generate a constructor somewhere. Yes. I don't need any field for this constructor. So when you don't create any constructor, by default, this one will exist. And that's why you can be able to do this. Okay? So you can create other constructors with maybe if you need to initialize your person class, you can have a constructor with two variables. So we can go ahead and have this constructor. So this constructor, you pass the values, first name and last name. So they can be very important for you when you want to initialize your variables. Now, if I need to write anything to the first name, I can call set first name and give a value. You can see like this one. And definitely, if you need to check what is written there, yes, you can try get F name. Let's print what is in the get name, P, get F name. So this is the only way to assign a value, to modify the value stored in this private variable. And this is the only way you can read the value stored in this variable. So let's run the program again and see what we get. Definitely, we should be able to see output as John. Okay, this is what the value we modified there. So I can call the second constructor, which is taking two parameters. Okay, something like this one. What is the first parameter? Okay, let's. If you go back and check your constructor, you will see that the first value is for first name, the second value is for last name. So I should have a different name. If you copy the same, let's make it simple first. Let's check what is in the first name. I don't need this one. So let me know if you understand the purpose. You can only access those private members through the use of public method, which is known as, in our case, getter and setter. So this is the second instance. So here I can say system out, print line, calling a constructor with a parameters. All right. So let's let's run the program and see. You go here and you make a learn. Okay. So now you can see the first output is John. Second, you are calling a constructor with the parameters Sandrine, because we are just calling a first name. So let's call first name and the last name. So if you go back and check what you have in the get last name or get F name, just a way to access the values stored in our private members. Okay, so let's run the program again and see what we get. Sorry, I should go to learners and then execute this one so you can see. All right, so guys, do you get the concept of what I'm trying to explain? I'm asking you guys, you feel free to say something. I'm giving you the chance to speak as well. Why you are not speaking? Someone was asking the question, what is that part super? So, yes, why didn't say? I was not looking into the chat, my friend. So, super, I think it's very important when we discuss the inheritance, which is the next topic. So I will let you understand the meaning of super keyword. Okay. So don't worry about this one. So deleting it is okay. I can keep it, but I will be just making my code. I've been making my program very long for nothing. I know at the moment it serves the nothing. But since we are going to cover the concept of inheritance, you will like the keyword super and this, and we'll be using them a lot. So Jose, we are not understanding. Wow, this is amazing. Jose, unmute your mic. What you don't understand?
What you've done, I don't understand it well.
Yes, I'm asking you because we covered a lot of, so far we covered a lot. So can you please be specific and say this is what I don't understand? Just waiting to hear from you, Jose.
I don't understanding the reason why you generate a code. Hmm? Tell me, what is the reason behind to generate a code?
Okay, actually we should not be generating a code. We should be writing the code, right? We should be writing all of this code. We should be writing, not generating, right? So what I did was to make my life easier because I'm using IDE, which has the capability to generate it for me. I can write this myself, right? That's why I said, before you get used to have this understanding, it's good for you to write this code. But when you feel you understand this concept of setters and getters, why not? You do right click like this here, you generate, all right? So this is the point. So to be short on your question, we should not be generating the code. If it is a constructor, I should be writing this constructor and this constructor. Okay. So I was doing that because for the sake of time, since my IDE has the capability to do so for me. Okay. So the code I generated are mainly setter and getters and even constructors. Eventually from here, this auto-generated code. And you guess what? Also, if you don't know, let's do this. If you want to see what is in your class, for example, you can go to P2, then call to string. So some of these methods exist. You may want to see what is in your class as object, and when you do so, your program will display something like this: the name of the class with this kind of number. So if you want, you can overwrite this class, but we haven't yet covered the concept of overriding. Maybe we can skip this by now. But if you want, you can come here and write another class, like a public string, toString. Okay, and say what you want. Return, thank you, John, something like this. So when you do so, you are overwriting this class, because this one, you were able to call it without defining it. What is the purpose of defining it? You are overriding it. So we come back to this concept as well. And if you run it now, you get something. Let's see what you get. So now you get thank you, John. Okay. So there are so many other concepts that we'll be discussing as we move on. So now let's introduce this one. We not to cover that much about this one because even in your mid same, you are not going to concentrate on inheritance, but definitely encapsulation will be there. So let me introduce inheritance, and we'll have another example. We use the same concept. It will shed more light on your understanding in terms of generating some code, in terms of using super, in terms of using this keyword. So everything will be very clear. So now in inheritance, which is another important concept of object-oriented programming. I needed to just give me 1 second, please. I can't see. Oh, I can't see my cursor. Resume slideshow. Okay. So yeah, it's here. We are talking about now inheritance. And what is inheritance? Inheritance is another concept of object-oriented programming. And in this session, I want you to understand the inheritance. The concept of inheritance is a subclass and a superclass. And this is very important because when you talked about the subclass and the superclass, long ago, you did this in a DBMS. I hope you did something like this one. You got something like employee, and somewhere you got something like part-time. You get something like a full-time. So what is a part-time? And what is full-time? They are employees, right? So if you remember where you did discuss a relationship called is A. People used to read it as ISA, is A. So which means what? Is A is a relationship. So this part-time guy is an employee. This full-time guy is also employee. So when you go this way, you can define these two as subclasses, of one class which is called employee. And this class is also known as a super class. So when we discuss about the concept of inheritance, is very paramount to understand the difference between the subclass and the super class. So we also discuss in this session the types of inheritance supported in Java and the concept of method overloading. You remember previously we discussed method overloading like this one. But this one here, we discuss method overriding. So inheritance, it's a derivation of one class from another class. If we go to the previous example, you can see part-time employee is derived from employee. Full-time employee is derived from employee. So we got a concept of subclass. This is a class which is derived from another class. And this subclass will inherit all the fields and methods from that superclass. So that's why it's called also derived class or extended class or child class. Then superclass is called the basic class or parent class. So this is the class from which the subclass is derived. So in the absence of explicit superclass, every class in Java is a subclass of object class. So that means object class is a superclass of any class in Java. So this is the concept here. And here you can have like, let's do this. You can have like a method. Okay, let's start with the properties. Employee will have a first name. Employee will have a last name. Employee will have an address. You can have a method like a show first name, for example. So you understand? So when I got my subclass here, for part-time, for example, I can say number of hours, something like this. How many hours? Number of hours. I can say uh, start date, for example. So the point here, this is a subclass, and this is a superclass. Subclass here will have the access to all properties and the methods of superclass. So I think I said that the reason why we did not have a face-to-face class, it's not very serious, but I have a very serious cold and cough, so I need to be very cautious. So now let's sorry, let's move on. So we have three types of inheritance. Number one is a single inheritance, then multi-level inheritance, and the number three, hierarchical inheritance. Let's start with the single inheritance. We have one subclass, which is inheriting from one superclass. There is a person here, and the student is a subclass of person. There could be so many other subclasses, like a teacher. So a person, there's a student, there is a teacher, there is a soldier, there is doctors, there is, you understand? All those are subclasses. So the subclass here, this okay, we are considering a person and the student. If a person has a name, for example, you do not need to specify a name here, because by default, subclass will inherit the properties of superclass. Okay, so multi-level inheritance, you can look at this structure. By the way, the implementation, this is how we do it. We have a class X extending class another class. This is the syntax. And for multi-level inheritance, we have a class like this is a superclass, and this becomes a subclass. This class is going to inherit all the properties and the method from this class. But again, this class plays a role of superclass for this class, which is also subclass. So you can look at the implementation. There is a class person, then a class employee is extending a person. Then there is a class teacher extending a class employee. This is a multi-level inheritance. So the last one is a hierarchical inheritance, whereby you have more than one subclass, more than one, you will help me to add E. More than one subclass inheriting from the same superclass. So there is a person here, I can say class employee extend a person, then a class student extend extend the person. So this is the concept of inheritance. And if I take you to some practical part of it, yes, discard. I want to bring some. Please, if you have some questions, raise your hand, because I may not look into the chat. and it's hard for me to guess if there is a question or not. So for the mid-sem, we cover most of the topics except inheritance. So now let's have another class. Let's have another program here. Let me call it. I call it. I can do as it is. Session is 0902. No, there is no part. I should put the name not here. Yeah. Session 0902. I want also static method. So the question of generating the code, if you do not want this to be generated, remove it. You can write it yourself. This is the point. But if I don't have a time and I want it to be written for me, I can take this one. The beauty, the benefits of using IDE. So now you can see that everything is written. So forget about this class. I can go here and have a class like, let's say a person class. Every person will have, you may make even them public string, first name, public string, last name, public void, show names, for example. And within this method, what you can do system out, print line, first name, put the first name and the just class concatenation. Last name, do class last name. So this is one simple class, and if you want, you can have some values for those classes. Let's say this is this is John, and this is John and Seth. So if I call this class, you guys, I think you know, I will say person, create instance of the class, new person, something like this one. I can then do P show names. So let's run this simple one and see what happens. There is no inheritance as of now because we don't have a class inheriting from another class. So now let's go. Okay. So there is error in the program. What is that? There's error here. Yes, because within the same package, we have another class called the person. Okay. So let's rename this class here. Please. So now we can come here. You can't have the same classes with the same name. So that's why I need to change the name of some classes. So now you can see the method show names is displaying first name and last name. So now let's have another class which is going to extend the first class. So I will say class teacher extend person, and within this class I can have some other members, public string qualification. Qualification, you can do something like this one. Then we can show Okay, so to be able to keep the members of my first class, there is a keyword super like this one here. So if I have like a constructor here, if I have like a constructor, method, whatever, everything will be accessible also in this class. It's like a teacher will have its own properties plus everything in the person in class. So now let's say public void show show qualification. So let me check. This guy is making a lot of noise. What's this? Mukaka Yumba, please. Please tell Mukaka Yumba to either to mute or stop. All right. So we need to be very serious. So now you see show qualification. What I do, I'll say system out, print line, qualification. Here we do qualification. So, so we should have a super. If you have a constructor, we don't have any constructor. Unless you want a constructor, you can have a constructor like public. You remember the constructor? We go with the public person, and this is empty. This is a default constructor. So if you need to have another constructor, maybe you need to initialize the members of your class. You can do something like this and have some members like string first name, string last name, and then when you have this one, you can confirm that this first name will be equal to the value you pass here. Last name will be equal to the value that you pass here. So when they have the same name, that's when you use this, because they have the same name. So in this case, they have different names. So if you bring a keyword super like this here, let's say syntax error. No, we make another constructor first, which is like a public teacher. And if you needed to do anything, you can do this keyword super. So that means it is going also to inherit the constructor from the upper from this class. So if you needed to have a constructor with some parameters here, eventually it's good to have this one here. Let me put it. I put it after this one. This is one constructor. I can have another constructor, and I needed to pass a string qualification or code whatever. So if I do super, you understand, it's going to take the properties, first name and last name from the super class is a constructor. Only what we need to do here is to say this qualification equal to the value I'm passing. So now I want to come here and let you understand what we mean. So I can have a class like Let's make it simple. Let's say teacher T equal to new teacher. So I needed to pass some parameters. So what is complaining about? Don't you have a teacher? Yes, you have. Oh, sorry. So eventually, it's a person, and this person is a teacher. So we need to pass some parameters. So what are the parameters we pass? Let me check. Public teacher. Oh, public person. Yes, class teacher, extend the person. Okay. Okay. Teacher, we have a qualification. So number one, let's do person, which is P1, for example. This is a new person. You have option to pass parameters or not. Let's go the second one. We pass, the second one has 2 parameters. You can give any values. Okay. And if you call a teacher, maybe T equal to new teacher. Probably let's pass something like a master's. So when you go for P, here you can see which method. Method show name. All right. So for teacher, oh, sorry. We made a mistake. You see, the class here was not closed. We needed to finish this class, and then we needed to have another class. That's why he was complaining actually. So this is one class and this is another class. So one class is extending another class. Okay. So this is one class from here to here, and this is another class which is extending the other class. So the point here is within the teacher class, you'll be able to access the name, to have the members like name, first name, last name, and even show the names. So, and you can do this. We have another consultant which takes like one parameter, like a master's. So if you go for teacher, you can see, you can have a show name. You see, show name here, but we didn't define any show name in a teacher class, right? But since this is a subclass, it's inheriting it from here. Also see, when you go for teacher class, no, something is deleted, undo. So if we go for teacher class, also we have another method. So for teacher class, we have 2 methods, show names and show qualification. But if you look at your code, we already did define the show qualification. It is inheriting show name from the superclass. So let's run the program and see. So now you can see this output here. It's from, I think we need to put the demarcation actually. P is from superclass. Let's go this way. System out, print line, calling superclasses method. And then from there, after P show, whatever, we can do. No, it's not here. It's here. So from here, we are calling a teacher class, which is a subclass. So that means we are calling subclasses. We are calling a subclass method. All right. So let's run it once again and see. So you can see, calling a superclass method, this is what we get. And when you call subclass, this is what we get. All right. And the qualification, you get a PhD here. So within here, you can access the members also for superclass. So let's say, for example, you do qualification. Okay, you do first name. Remember, we did not declare any first name here, but we can access it from the top. There is no complaint, okay? So we can access it. Last name, again plus, last name, then plus. Okay, so there is a plus here. Let's check. F name. System out, first name. Mispressed constructor. There's no constructor here. So let's do super. No, this super does not work here because we are looking at the members of superclass. Okay, let me rephrase it this way. Okay. Oh, sorry, should be like this. Let me show the name as well. Print line. Okay, so what you can do here, because we need to show the names as well in this method. So like this one, this method, when you call this method, you will see that we have access to those names from a superclass. So my point is, you can still get these values in this class, whereas they are not declared anyway in this class. So let's see. So you can see we still get those values. All right. So the values we are getting here, the values that we did assign to first name and the last name. So it's a concept of inheritance. After they mean the same, we're gonna continue with inheritance and the other topics like interfaces, the packages. But for the made the same exam, you can prepare up to up to what? Encapsulation. So I think this is what I can share. I'm not really feeling comfortable, but